Some more big news on the potential number one overall pick, Abdul Carter here. Adam, what's the latest going on with him?
Laura, he went through the medical exams yesterday, and during the course of the medical exams, doctors found a stress reaction in his right foot. He huddled with medical doctors last night and this morning, underwent further scans to determine whether or not he would need surgery on his right foot that would sideline him about 8 weeks. But after looking at the scans this morning, doctors made the determination and advised him not to have the surgery. And right now he's scheduled to have his pro day March 28th at Penn State. He's not going to work out here, which he already had decided not to do due to the shoulder injury that he suffered in the college football playoff against Notre Dame. So he wasn't working out here anyway, but now he will target March 28th, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of curious teams, especially at the top of the draft, with him being the projected number one overall pick potentially. They're going to want to see how that right foot reacts. They're going to want to get a look at that right foot, and we'll see how it holds up here almost a month from today.
Well, Abdul Carter posted on X this morning. You referenced that March 28th date. He was referencing that too. He said, "You can't stop greatness." Y'all thought I was going that easy? This is just going to make the movie more interesting. See y'all March 28th. Bring you popcorn. I love this. Hashtag number one overall pick, 56 days. It's already written.
Ooh.
The confidence is not lacking there. We love it. Lewis, if you're the Titans sitting at number one, how does this impact your willingness to take Carter?
You know, in these situations, Laura, you really do. This is why you spare no expense when you're talking about your medical and your training departments within an organization, because this is literally where you take the information from them and say, look, advise us on what this means as far as the risk associated with taking a young man like this number one overall. And every team looks at these things differently. You talk to different training staffs across the league. Some teams will look at this as being a serious risk. Some teams will look at it and go, hey, you know what? We're fine with it. He's without a doubt someone we would take number one overall. I don't know what Tennessee's medical department is like in terms of their history of being conservative or not. But, you know, there's going to be plenty of teams saying, hey, look, if we had that number one overall pick, we would put that card in a minute for a guy like this. So I think it's really going to be about what is Tennessee's tolerance for risk when it comes to something like this once they look at the scans. And look, for me, look, if Abdul says I'm good to go and the doctors are saying I'm good to go, if I'm a GM, I'm going, turn that thing in. Because this dude is legit. We all know that. Just turn on the tape. It speaks for itself.
Yeah, I'm with you. The risk tolerance is about the health, not about the player, because the player is a sicko. Is that a scouting term, sicko? Because
I like that
that's what
term.
I think
It's a good
watching
one.
him. I mean, Lewis, like, he's so complete.
Yeah.
The physical tools,
Yep.
the get off is unbelievable. The bend, the closing speed, the footwork, that little stutter step, Euro step thing he does. He's excellent against the run. He's a complete player. He plays with a high motor. He's violent. There's just nothing not to like about his game, frankly.
The most interesting thing about the move to defensive end this year is it was something he asked for. Penn State didn't ask him to do it. They were perfectly content with him still playing an off-ball stack position. He said, I want to go down because I've seen what other guys have done, like me, like a guy who wore number 11 also at Penn State named Micah Parsons. I want some of that. Now, they challenged him and said, hey, look, it isn't just about rushing the passer.
Right.
You're going to have to line up in a 6 against a tight end or at a 5 against a tackle, and you're going to have to bang now with some of these guys in double teams. He said, fine, I'll take the challenge. He's put himself in a position now to be the number one overall pick in the draft. He is such a fun guy to talk to. When you talk about his upbringing and the influence of his father on him, the influence of the coaching staff at Penn State, there's nothing the young man can't do. Nothing.
I thought it was pretty cool when he was meeting with the media earlier this week, just giving the credit to his father and how his father's coached him, got him to this point.
What was the feedback you got from teams looking at you as a receiver?
It's a lot of things I need to work on both sides of the ball. So,
What do you think you need to work on most?
you can always work on technique. So I definitely need to work on technique, and it's a couple more small things.
And then what do you think about the potential of being an NFL player who plays both wide receiver and DB? How important is that for you?
That's super important to me. You know, I've been doing it my whole life, so I would like for them to let me give me the opportunity to do it again.
There's a lot of conversation about you, potentially the number one overall pick. How do you manage all of that as you go through this process?
I kind of don't look at that stuff. I just look at fishing all day. So
What do you see on fishing?
I just see people catching fish. I can't wait to get back home and catch me some fish too.
I love it. We can't wait for that too. Thanks so much, Travis.
No problem. Thank you.
He told me he's going after the largemouth bass, so he really can do it all, right? As a corner, he allowed just 1 touchdown in coverage, and his 4 interceptions were top 3 in the Big 12. And as a receiver, all he did was set the Colorado single-season record with 15 touchdowns last year. He made defenders miss on 27 tackles after he caught the ball, tied for the 4th most in the FBS. The Titans and Browns, the teams with the top 2 picks in the draft, seem to have very different opinions on how to use Hunter at the next level.
He probably starts at corner, and then you find ways to interject him into the offense as he gets more comfortable. He plays more and more offensively. But I think his corner is probably his starting point. In my opinion, you might get varying opinions on that.
In terms of Travis Hunter, cornerback or receiver, the answer is yes. We would see him as a receiver primarily first. But I think part of, again, what makes him a bit of a unicorn is the fact that he can do both at a high level.
Our draft analyst, Field Yates, joining us now. And one other thing that Hunter had said to me is that in meeting with all the teams he's met with, Field, they either view him as a wide receiver or a DB. No one has mentioned so far playing both. But what is the best position for Travis Hunter in your mind?
I think Andrew Barry's got it sized up correctly. I would actually want to work Travis Hunter on both sides of the ball, but I believe the path to becoming a Pro Bowl player may exist more as a wide receiver for Travis Hunter. He is the most natural playmaker in this entire class and probably over the last few classes. He runs good enough routes. What really stands out to me is the catch skills. You actually saw a highlight when we were running it in the beginning of this segment against North Dakota State, where they tried to run this fade on the goal line to him on first down. Didn't work. 2 plays later, what do they do? The exact same thing. There's going to be some questions about how strong is Travis Hunter. How much does he weigh, which we'll find out officially over the next couple of days here. Other than play strength, was totally fine on tape. His ball skills are elite, of course. I think he'd be an excellent cornerback, but I believe the biggest upside for Travis Hunter is at wide receiver.
Well, there's definitely financial upside to playing wide receiver versus corner, and I'm sure that factors into things. And let me be clear, he is a very good receiving prospect, so I don't disagree with you. But I actually think he could be an all-pro as a corner and pretty damn quickly, which is a wild thing to say about a player who has not stepped foot in the NFL. But let me tell you, his tape is wild. The athleticism obviously is what leaps off of it, both in terms of his long speed, the recovery speed, the change of direction. I mean, that pick was insane. The ball skills are extraordinarily, immediately one of the best corners in the NFL in terms of ball skills. But what really jumped out to me, Lewis, watching his tape, his football IQ, in zone coverage, his route recognition, the way he reads quarterbacks, it's pretty special stuff. And I just feel like he's going to come in and be an incredible pro from the jump.
And he's not going to come off the field. So he's going to be someone who immediately you're going to say, hey, look, we can play whatever discipline we want. We can play man zone, we can play press, we can play off. And he's going to understand route concepts at an advanced level because of the fact that he plays wide receiver. So he understands what route concepts are trying to attack. He anticipates them. He's always a step ahead. The thing that's cool about Travis also is you've seen this guy hit. He is not afraid to tackle. So he's not a liability in any way. Now, offensively, you can pick your spots how to work him in there. Do you want him to be in your 11 personnel package? Do you want him to be in your 10 personnel package? Do you want him to be a guy who like maybe in a specialty way comes in your 12 personnel? And you can kind of pick and choose how to bring him along to develop, and kind of like shorten his learning curve. And I think you can still get the best of both worlds. There's no way I would limit him. There's no way I would limit him to just one side of the ball. We use the word transcendent, right, all the time in our business. And a lot of times it doesn't really apply.
Yeah.
It applies here. This dude's a freak, and you have to treat him as such with kid gloves to make sure you're getting the best out of him. But right away, you put him on the field at corner, he's going to be in the Pro Bowl his first year.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Field, some of this has to do with team need, too. Like, if you look at these teams, whether it's the Titans, the Browns, maybe somehow he falls to the Giants, who knows? How much does that factor into the way that you see him as a wide receiver primarily?
I think the plan at the beginning is going to be very team-dependent, right? The Browns have kind of already cast their die, and the Titans, I suppose, have done the same in saying, at least in Brian Callahan's words, they see him more as a corner than a wide receiver. I think where teams are going to land, though, and this is where I personally would land as well, is, the best way to figure out if he can't do it is to let him try and potentially fail. Like, you might as well at least give him some reps and opportunities on both sides of the ball. We're not talking about a guy, again, to Lewis's point, who is, you see him dabble on one side of the ball in college and play predominantly on the other side of the ball. Chris Gamble from Ohio State, he transitioned from wide receiver to corner at the college level, then became a corner in the NFL. We saw Charles Woodson mixed in on offense. Every snap, 115 snaps per game for Travis Hunter. I think you have to understand not just the physical skill set that requires, the determination, the mental acuity to learn both sides of the playbook, right? You're going to double the meetings. You have to have double the understanding from a football instinct standpoint, I think I would just let it settle itself or figure itself out at the NFL level before I decide definitively, when he hasn't even put a jersey on for my team, hey, he's only going to be this.
Yeah. Look, the hardest thing to do, I believe, in the NFL is to prevent explosives because there's so many freaks playing wide receiver. You have to have an antidote to that. You have to have a counter to that. He's a counter to that. Offensively, if you gave Travis 5, 6, 7 targets a game, you probably are going to get 2 or 3 that are plus 20 at some point. Because, and it doesn't have to be the long ball. You saw the stats right there as far as his run after catch. He's going to create the explosives for you anyway.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's why I'm saying, look, of course you don't limit him. But defensively, I'm putting him on the field right away, and I'm going, unless you're dog tired and you got to come out, you ain't coming out on that side of the ball.
I love your point about preventing explosives because I really believe as a cornerback, he is the type of player that alters your offensive game plan, which is so rare when we talk about cornerbacks in this league. But because of his ball skills as well as his recovery speed, the way he times his jumps when he plays the football, quarterbacks are not going to throw at him. I really believe that in the NFL, and thus you have to make an entirely different game
How
plan.
many quarterbacks are just going to throw it up and go, I'm hoping to get the PI again?
No.
He's like a wide receiver, so he's
Yes.
probably not going to commit the PI.
Myles is under contract. We love him. He's a good player. So for us, it's really as simple as that. We don't envision a scenario where he's no longer a member of the Cleveland Browns. He's a franchise player for us. So we're going to keep him in Cleveland.
Unmovable?
Unmovable.
All right, so that was Browns GM Andrew Berry on Tuesday. Adam Schefter back with us. What are you hearing lately as all the NFL is here in Indy about Myles Garrett's trade request?
Well, the Browns say he's unmovable, and Myles Garrett continues to insist that he's not even open to discussing a new contract extension with the Cleveland Browns. And so both sides really are dug in here. The Browns can say he's unmovable, but Myles Garrett has no interest in discussing an extension. They continue to say it has nothing to do with money. He wants to go win. He wants to go to a place where he feels he has a shot at doing that immediately. And clearly, he does not believe that that is in Cleveland, which holds the number 2 pick in the draft. And we'll see what the Browns ultimately decide to do. I can tell you there's a feeling around the league that the Browns ultimately will decide to take a quarterback at number 2. They've got so much money tied up at that position in Deshaun Watson, and they need to stabilize the position and also get some financial relief by not having to pay top price for a top quarterback. The easiest way to do that is to find a quarterback. And when you're picking number 2, you're going to have the chance to get a quarterback, maybe either quarterback that you like most in this draft. So I think there continues to be a feeling that ultimately, no matter what the conversation is leading up to the draft, that Cleveland will use its first-round pick on a quarterback.
It makes sense to me for all the reasons that you laid out, and we've talked about this. I do feel that Cam Ward is the best quarterback in this draft, highest upside, physical, mental tools, all there. I think for Cleveland, there's a couple things, though, you got to work through. Do you like him enough to pass on Travis Hunter? We were just talking about Hunter, who is, we agree, a transcendent, to use your word, prospect. I personally have a higher degree of conviction in Hunter than I do in Ward, who I like, but Ward plays quarterback. And then the other thing, Lewis, is if you do go for Ward, how do you feel about integrating him into your offense? This is an offensive scheme with Kevin Stefanski where they have tried to alter it to accommodate Deshaun Watson the last few years. They've gone away from the under-center play-action-based offense. Do you look at Cam Ward and feel we're going to have to do that again and build an offense around his skill set as opposed to Kevin Stefanski's system? This is something that they have to work through because, in Miami, primarily played from the gun. I don't think he's not capable of playing from under center, but it's something he's going to have to learn, Lewis.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is if you know Cam and you think about his journey, he would be the kind of guy who would not even give off the vibe of saying, look, I can only play one way. I can only play like I did at Miami. I can only play like I did at Washington State. This kid, I think he is such a different individual in terms of his mental toughness, given the fact that he started off as a zero-star recruit at Incarnate Ward before he went to Washington State and then took on the job of going down to Miami. And basically, listening to Mario Cristobal talk about it, he said he's one of the greatest leaders in the history of Miami Hurricane football. And Mario played on some of the great teams ever in college football and said no one took over a football team or an organization the same way Cam did this year. And he was open to whatever would needed to be done in order to make himself great and help everyone else. So I think in Cleveland, to your point, Mina, I think he would adapt well to that kind of system, to an under center system, to a 12 personnel system, a play action type system. He would absolutely feast in that.
He's great at play action in college.
Exactly. And then when you do put him in the gun, now you're in his wheelhouse anyway.
Yeah.
So to me, I don't think you can lose with him. I think, again, I have zero confidence in Cleveland being able to make sure that they shepherd a guy like this to the promised land like they need to. I have zero confidence in that. And that has nothing to do with Kevin Stefanski, by the way, who I'm a big fan of. It's everything else surrounding it. And I just hope that whoever winds up going there, whether it's him or Shedeur, I hope they do right by these kids. Because the fact that Myles Garrett is saying, look, I don't even want to talk to you about a contract. This ain't money for me. And they're saying, well, you're unmovable. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? You've talked to Myles Garrett. You were there.
Garrett, I mean, we sat in a meeting
He is
with
as
him,
convicted an individual as there is.
and he went through all of the questions
That's
he
right.
had asked the Browns front office
That's
and
right.
didn't get the answers that he wanted
Right.
to get. He wasn't just some guy that flew off the handle
Yeah.
and said, I want to be traded out
Yeah.
of here. It's a good point, Lewis, for context. Also, just quickly, I want to point this out about under center. Ward had just 4 dropbacks from under center in 2024, but he was 2 for 4 with 2 touchdowns on those 4 plays. So,
Yeah.
Hey.
he does. Small sample size.
You know what? I
but
mean, look, we thought the same thing, right, last year about Bo Nix
right.
coming from Oregon. And how did he look this year?
Drake May figured it out on our center.
These
Just
kids are
development.
talented. They'll be
Smart,
able to figure
he's
it
a
out.
smart prospect.